And open attribution in a big way is about getting a group of people together and organizations that make this content and power this system to say, you know what, yes, you can have our content. We need to know how it's used and we need to be paid for it.
You're listening to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast powered by Affiverse, ultimate destination for affiliate program news, insights, growth opportunities, partnerships, and affiliate program strategy. Welcome to this week's episode of the Affiliate Marketing Podcast, and we're talking about open attribution, what it is, why it matters, and what you need to be doing about it. Now, this isn't an ordinary podcast like we do each week, so you'll notice that the format of this discussion is interactive, and there's more than one of us talking at any given time, because we did this as a webinar the week before last with Leanna Klyne, the head of agency at KonverJ, our affiliate marketing agency, and Alex Springer, the director of openattribution.org, who is leading the charge for change. With huge advent of AI LLMs, search is evolving into answers, summaries, and AI experiences that don't always send traffic to the content creator. That shift is already impacting how content is being credited, how conversations are being measured, and how partners should be getting remunerated for their impact on the buyer awareness journey or the shopping journey. We shared a vast amount of information on this webinar. We also answered some live questions from the audience who joined us via our stream channels and also in the webinar itself. And we dug deep into the state of AI and its effect on content and its current transparency. So if you signed up for the webinar and you haven't had a chance to watch the replay yet, I encourage you to tune in here this week while you're on your morning run or your journey into work to listen to this discussion. If you want to check out the slides that accompanied us, you can do that on affiversemedia.com. Just head on over to the webinar section. I'll leave you all with the insights of this conversation this week. And if you have any questions or comments, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do read all my own messages and I will respond to you directly to help. Most importantly, keep abreast of all the new trends and developments. I encourage you to sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss what's driving the industry forward. Right, let's get our guests introduced and get this week's conversation started.
Yeah, so I am the agency director at KonverJ. So my role is to help our clients to build strategy for their affiliate programs and to help our account managers to achieve the goals within that strategy. So, I'm very excited as well about what Alex has to talk about today because it affects us in our everyday role.
All right, over to Alex. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why we are here today.
I'm Alex Springer, heading up the openattribution.org initiative. I've been in the affiliate marketing, performance marketing side of the world for over a decade at this point, working at impact.com, initially over in the US on the more sales engineering side, speaking with clients looking to potentially onboard Impact and figuring out how to make that happen. And then moving out here to London 7 years ago to build out the office out here. In the last year, really, I've been focused on what AI initiatives in our space really means. There's a lot of work around implementing AI as a technology, and we're seeing that everywhere. It's not just affiliate platforms, it's publishers doing cool stuff with AI, interacting with their audiences, it's brands interacting with their customers through AI. Like at this point, as a technology, AI has become pretty ubiquitous. Looking at the AI initiatives that I've been focusing on, it's much more about AI as a actor out in the industry, as a platform. So ChatGPT interacts with customers as their personal agent, the Gemini that is increasingly taking over the center of Google search as AI overview, dare I say AI as an antagonist in that kind of environment. And what that means for the affiliate industry, for the influence industry, and kind of for the marketing industry more broadly. I think the reason that I felt like it was necessary to, rather than try to build an individual product at any one particular platform, and instead look at something cross industry, was really due to the nature of the problem itself. The platforms themselves have gotten very large, they've gotten very big audiences. Google was already first in the first place, right? And are able to wield that power to do what they want with their new products. In some ways, very constructively. Like, I don't want to make this entirely bashing the AI platforms. They are doing some very cool things. But in other ways, things that threaten publishers, threaten affiliates, and that's a universal. That's not just one affiliate platform, one tracking platform that's trying to figure that out. It is a universal thing. And the underlying premise of the affiliate industry that we are creating content that is trusted by audiences to go make buying decisions, to go make decisions in general, that's still true. And that's really exciting. And so I wanted to find a way to work with the industry, with players across the industry, to make sure that we're understanding how we measure that influence in this new environment and ensure that we're able to get folks paid for that. But we'll talk much more about that as we go.
So today we're talking about this old journey of search that is being disrupted in a very big way. And we really want Alex to come in and actually explain it, because it is confusing. It is concerning, especially in terms of what your current tracking setup is, what you should be thinking about in terms of methodologies for the future. And nobody really has the definitive answer to everything yet, because we're currently building the plane and flying it at the same time. I guess the best place to start, and what I really want to know, so the questions that I'm going to be asking to lead this conversation is, why is last click broken? We know that content is a big part of what we do here in affiliate and performance marketing. Tracking only gets us so far with the systems and the technologies that we have in place. But why is open attribution now such a hot topic in terms of understanding how we can append and apportion value through the entire stage of the customer awareness and journey funnel to sale?
I'll give the really quick intro into what open attribution specifically is focusing on, and then dive into that question, because I think that probably, answering that takes up the rest of our time. Thinking about what are we trying to do, right? Forgetting the dangers specific to the affiliate industry. I think more broadly, I personally believe, and I think this is fairly non-contentious, that content owners should be remunerated for their work. They have the right to have visibility into how their work is used, how it's being quoted, how it's being represented. Right now, neither of those things are happening, and that's a fundamental issue. And it's not like it's a new issue, right? Not paying people for their work and then not showing them how they're being, or misquoting them, or showing them how they're being quoted, right? Those two things are varying shades of illegal for a reason, right? It's not a new concept. So the question then becomes, how do we fix that? And so open attribution is not going to solve all of these by itself by any means. So we're taking a big step towards some of them. But the idea is we really get in on this idea of transparency.
Are you talking about tracking transparency, understanding where that customer came from, what channels they went through, how to apportion? Because this is about commercials, right?
It is, yeah. And that transparency into what the customer does next after they read something, right? That's how we commercialize it. But even knowing how the content's being used in the first place. We'll talk about the content marketplaces and the kind of pay-per-crawl solutions and these things that are trying to build a market around this. I think they all have this very fundamental issue they have to answer, which is, what is the value of a scrape? And transparency into what happens next. Does a customer go buy something? What is that value? That's a good wedge into that to start to try to back it out. So what is it worth? But even more broadly, did this influence the user to do something? And that's kind of what we need. I'll also highlight, when I say content owner, I'm very intentionally not using the word publisher, because as we move forward, a product feed from a brand is content as far as an LLM is concerned, right? So a brand needs to be thinking about asking for transparency and how their content, how their products are being represented, as much as the publisher does for the articles they're writing, the reviews that they're writing.
Yeah.
And so we're focused on that transparency and usage, auditability, so we can understand, is this being accurately reproduced? If you're a news organization, you saw this during the CMA consultation from a couple of the publishers there, saying I was quoted almost perfectly, except the conclusion that ChatGPT said I came to in my article was completely wrong. They misquoted the fundamental core of the article, and there's no recourse to that right now. And we need the transparency and the auditability in order to start taking action against that. And then, yes, to your point, in terms of economic viability, how do we get paid? Who does the paying, and how much they actually paying for content, right? All that has to be answered.
How are you going to approach this? Talk us through the roadmap per se, because you need to have a roadmap to start, right?
Yes, we do. And I think it's just a very quick touch on what we're not doing, because there's a lot of stuff out there at the moment. And the market is trying to solve this, right? Publishers are not standing still and just hoping that someone else comes and solves this problem for them. And there are a lot of tech companies that have appeared around this market, right? So at core, we're saying, look, AI, and I'm totally stealing this from a wonderful man named John Roberts. Some brilliant stuff. He's doing a lot of writing and talking at the moment. But his core premise that you need compute power, you need chips, right? You need power as in electricity, and you need content in order to make AI work. And you can't steal the first two, but the last one has been stolen. And so we need to rebuild the marketplace. To do that, you have to put up walls. You have to say, great, let's lock the door so you can't steal our stuff anymore. And there are an entire set of solutions around doing that, whether it's Cloudflare or Tollbit. Then you need to open the door back up, except with prices on the shelves and a security guard. And that's where you start getting these content marketplaces that are saying, this is how much it costs to come access this content. The last one is this AI search visibility. So understanding not just what do we pay for it, how do we make it not get stolen in the first place, but once the content is purchased and used, how is it then being represented? How are we seeing that in the LLMs? And that AI visibility space is very hot at the moment. Was it yesterday or something? Profound has a billion-dollar valuation now as an AEO vendor. It's very probabilistic. It's focused on it, we're guessing what queries that we think our potential customers are asking. And it's very useful from an indicative perspective. But if EE shows up and says, this referring click came from ChatGPT, maybe someone said, what's the best broadband provider in the UK? Someone could have just said, what are companies that start with E?
We have to figure out how people are searching. Again, we have to refigure this out. We knew before everyone was searching on Google, and now we're in the dark.
But we've seen some of that. Like there are some templates for that. The company like Ipsos, right? There's like Nielsen ratings. Like we're almost getting back into this consumer research land where we need to go, okay, what are you actually asking? And that's super useful. So for all of that, Open Attribution is not doing any of those. So we are working with the folks in the space that are. What we are actually doing is focusing on one very specific goal, and that's to say, how do we introduce visibility into what's actually happening live in a chat with a customer? We're not trying to get like the full chat exported out of the chat. We're not trying to get people's whole engagements with their AI bots. It's very focused around this idea of as a conversation happens, citations are occurring. Yeah. The AI agents are going out to the web. They're doing scrapes. They're looking at their own internal indexes, and they're quoting content. At its most basic, the first step that Open Attribution has taken is to build a manifest that an AI agent can implement that says, here's the list of URLs, here's the list of sources that we've quoted along the way, and then provides a mechanism for it to send out that list as the conversation reaches an outcome. The relevant outcome for this group is obviously a sale. Or more importantly, I know we're saying zero click, but I'm going to talk about a click, is the click out for a user to a retailer, to a travel site to go make their purchase. And so the core question is, can we take all of the content that was cited inside of a chat and can we somehow attach it to that click out so that a tracking platform or the merchant themselves or the website owner can recognize what actually contributed towards that customer clicking out to their site in a deterministic way. And so that we can then use that same signal to give visibility to the content owners about how their content is being used. There's a lot that goes into actually making that happen, not least of which is convincing platforms to do it. But the standard itself is there. The draft of it and the first versions are live. I encourage people to go to openattribution.org, go to the hub repositories, take a look, and that's where we're starting. In terms of the immediate term roadmap, that question of how do we get it implemented was the most difficult part. And thankfully, there's now a thing called a commerce protocol. So both Google and OpenAI have put out various protocols in collaboration with Shopify and Stripe that are either the agentic commerce protocol or the universal commerce protocol, either ACP or UCP.
Hold on, I need to slow you down because I know this is like your first language, but to all of us, it's like, what are you talking about? So say that again, but say it in layman's terms.
Yeah, so what these commerce protocols do, they effectively let your personal agent or unagent buy stuff on your behalf. Gemini can now buy things from Target on the user's behalf and send the order to Target to fulfill, but the user interacts entirely with Gemini. Or you're chatting with your ChatGPT instance and you say, great, I'm running short of kitchen roll. And through these protocols, it can go purchase whatever it needs, have Argus ship it right to your house, right? And so those commerce protocols become the transaction point rather than on the retailer site.
So I know a big question that I've had asked of me, and you're a little bit more in tune with all of this stuff and how tech develops. Do you think that websites are still going to be required in 5 years' time?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Yep. So there's a couple of things. I think one is like there are purchases on the commodity side that I have, like, I don't feel a need to ever go look at a screen full of potential kitchen roll options ever again. Right?
Yeah,
like, remember like the old, like the Amazon button that they were trying to push that you could just, when you ran out of the roll, you like press the thing, and that'll be interesting how that model adjusts, but that's been happening for years, right? That kind of aggregated commodity. The more considered purchases are the ones that are always quoted as people aren't going to go want to buy a Vera Wang bags without being able to really interact, and like those high consideration, high cost purchases.
If you think about like tech and like really complex, some very expensive things, but also things that you want to have like really good reviews on, and you want to go and research before you buy. And I'm thinking about my hand warmers that I bought to go and stand on the rugby field with my kid in the winter. But I did about 1 million YouTube videos, asked ChatGPT to do a comparison for me, then went on to, and I know James Little and I love this, Top Cashback, got me a bonus code, and then bought and then ordered it on Amazon with a coupon voucher. So whatever, the whole journey or whatever was just like, it wasn't quick. I didn't just ask ChatGPT, tell me the best hand warmers and check out. So I think that's a really good way of explaining that while we need to be aware of what's going on here, we don't need to go and change our entire model because this is the new thing. Because I've seen a lot of people adopt AI and do it wrong and then have to roll back and go back and rebuild their processes and their systems. So I just want to kind of like allay people's fears because there's like hype, right? But what we're trying to do is put protocols in place and understand that there's going to be an evolution of what happens here.
The fundamental change that's happening underneath all of this is like the information access pattern, which I know sounds vague, but like what you just described is you opening a browser, and that was like you directed your browser, you actively chose to go places, you did searches, and you kind of aggregated that yourself ChatGPT is already not going to just live in this one little chat app, right? Like Gemini is going to be in Chrome natively very soon. If you have an Android phone, it's already basically there. It is now bringing you all that information. It's digesting it on your behalf ahead of time and then presenting it to you. So those YouTube videos you watched, those reviews that you read, even the cashback, the codes that you're getting, all of that will still feel like you're going and browsing this information, but it's just now coming through this layer that like knows more about you, knows what you want, is bringing you this information.
Yeah.
So in that environment, the question becomes not just how do you influence a customer? It's also like, I want to influence you. I write a good review about your hand warmer. I now have to find a way to not just have a good review about the hand warmers, but also convince the LLM that my review is worth regurgitating to you, right? And that's like, now there's this multi-layer influence thing that's a pain.
I think we're seeing a lot of publishers get really serious about the content that they create. It's no longer surface level, here's product A, product B, and this is the differences between the two. They're starting to have to get really clever about the value add that they're bringing to the consumer and how that content is going to be picked up through the LLM. Do you think that this is actually going to, I mean, by way of evolution, do you think that this is actually going to like cull out that tsunami of crap content that's come onto the internet in the last 18 months? And actually, are we going to get more considered about the experience that we give to consumers when they're purchasing? Which then does open up the question of how do we value that content? How do we pay for that placement?
Yes. The value of the content is influence. Is it influencing customers? Is it influencing a customer's personal agent that they've chosen? And what does that mean? When you try to put your thumb on a scale and put in a bunch of maybe incorrect or biased information into a data set, that is referred to as poisoning the data set, which is a thing to bear in mind. People who are trying to build models that give balanced answers and this sort of thing are also actively trying to make sure that they're grabbing unbiased sources of information. it's why like Wikipedia, in addition to it being open, right? So highly valued for model builders because it has a very standardized, unbiased approach.
Here's another thing then for affiliate managers that are tuning in. Do we now need to have a process in place to game the system, which is what happened with Google search early on? So anybody that's older than 8 or 10 years in the industry will remember what happened in the early days of when Google first came out. There were lots and lots of ways to game the system. So do you think that we're going to be getting into a space now where, and God love them, publishers are always on the bleeding edge. They're going to try and make a buck as soon as they can. But do you think that we now as affiliate managers need to be watching out for things like that in programs? And whether we want to be involved in that first adopter, like competitive edge, or do we want to set boundaries now already in terms of where and how our brand gets presented to consumers? It's an important question.
Yeah, it presumes a certain level of control that we maybe don't have. Like the environment right now is such that publishers are either blocking or not blocking AI crawlers. And it means that a lot of high value publishers are currently blocking the crawlers because they're playing a bigger game, trying to get a bigger license deal or whatever it may be. And that's removing a lot of high quality content from like OpenAI's scrapable data set. And the result, I posted about this a couple of days ago. If you look for best noise canceling headphones, you get this website back that's WHX1000.com or something. And it's amazing because it is very low quality. It has a contact us example email. Almost even more interesting is that it is actually subtly pro Bose, even though being named after a Sony product. But like, it's to your point about early days SEO, are they pumping up the AI authority of that domain or to sell it forward? Are they trying to show that they can subtly influence a bot through a way that is fairly undetectable? But like any AI agent that reads that site starts by saying, oh, this is about Sony, and then comes away saying, you know what, for most use cases, Bose is better, which is just this interesting kind of case study in that. So being aware that like your GEO tools are telling you what is influencing the AI agent right now, but if it's low quality stuff like that, like you can't just like blindly go throw money at all the sites being cited, right? The other thing to look out for is the kind of content aggregators that are not respecting things like scraping rules, effectively stealing content that has said, OpenAI can't scrape me, but this other site will have taken that, aggregated it, and then pointed it basically directly at OpenAI and said, oh, you can't get it over there, but you can get this information over here.
Yeah.
And so those are two really kind of key things to watch out for.
Yeah. Okay. So there's no current regulation, legislation, best practices in this space, which is exciting, but also a little bit scary. Exciting if you're like on the bleeding edge and always want to innovate. A little bit scary if you have a compliance team that's going, whoa, how do we control all of this with our brand, with our content streams and everything else? So there's a lot of panic right now. So I want to kind of alleviate that and go back to what openattribution.org is and why you started it. What are you intending to do with this and how do you want people to get involved? Because it is an independent organization that you've set up so that multiple people from brands to tech platforms, publishers, everybody can get involved. It doesn't really matter who you are or what part of the ecosystem you're in. Once you've got the involvement, what is the kind of first project that you're working on?
So there's a couple of different ways to get involved. I think the first thing I'll throw out is for that question around like governance, and I want to direct you to the APMA for that here in the UK. The AI task force is focusing on that. I think that's a great place for that side of things.
I'm on it, and I have been in those meetings, and there's a lot of good conversations happening there. So if you're not an APMA member, please do go check it out.
And that's where I think as networks, right, the tracking platforms, the affiliate networks, like need to get together and say, okay, what's good look like in our marketplace with a bunch of AI partners? What do we need to know about them to confidently then recommend them to brands? And that's going to be a conversation where we need brands to come tell us what they're thinking. Do you need to know what foundation model this publisher is running before you go work with them? Do you know that they're complying with European Commission rules for AI usage in customer environments, right? That's not established yet. And that's the thing that's going to have to be a cross-industry conversation. And the APMA is the perfect spot for that.
Yeah.
So in terms of where Open Attribution feeds into that, right? I think we need to be asking for this transparency. Google and OpenAI would love it, nothing more, do love the fact that we are rewriting the internet to be AI consumable, just so that their bots can then scrape all of that. And then we hope they say nice things about us. Like, we're not asking enough in return for that. And Open Attribution in a big way is about getting a group of people together and organizations that make this content and power this system to say, you know what, yes, you can have our content, but we need to know how it's used and we need to be paid for it. If that's your model, or if you're a brand, then we need to be able to understand how traffic's coming to us, because our content is to drive that awareness. The membership for Open Attribution is the lightest weight membership agreement you'll ever see. It's effectively saying you support that idea that content owners should have transparency and visibility into how their content is used. And so joining that in the first place is helpful, because it's just from a collective bargaining power. We can say, you know what, this is a group that we think that matters. In terms of getting more involved on the brand side, these transactions, these events, this activity that's being pushed to brands via chatbots, via AI overview and all the rest, can be a massive win. And agentic commerce is going to be a really interesting thing as it evolves. So simply in the conversations that you're having with Google, right, as you're thinking about implementing these commerce protocols, it's that request of, this is great. If we're going to fund this, if we're going to put ad dollars behind it, if we're going to put affiliate commissions, we have to know what we're paying for. You need simple visibility and simple transparency. And no attribution is providing a template for how that can be done.
And this isn't a dictatorship. And that's why you're asking for everybody to come in, because everybody needs to be feeding into what this new best practice is going to be and how it's going to be structured.
And it's intentionally very simple at its core. The signals that come out are little more than a list of URLs. And there are some kind of extensions that can be done to send a little more information out, but we want to keep it very simple. And being able to say to measurement platforms like, come join the initiative, take a look at the code, take a look at the signals. I want to know if it's enough or if it's too much or it's too little. Could we build a marketplace? Could we build a market around our content again? I have an opinion on that, but
you can't say you have an opinion and not share it.
The opinion there is codified in the work at the moment, right? But I want everyone else's. Like, I need the industry come around. And the good news is we're getting there, right? Like we have true cross-network collaboration. I think I'm excited to be able to launch in the next couple of weeks, like the formal initial steering committee and membership that will include majority of the big networks and a number of publishers.
And that's quite a big deal, Alex. I know you're glossing over it, but never in the 20 years that, the industry has been going, has there been that level of transparency where everybody jumps. Like, this is the first time in the history of the internet where everybody has come together and gone, yeah, we need to deal with this. It's not just your problem or my problem. We're all going to be experiencing this problem. And it's like a sign of maturity for the industry as well, I think.
Yeah, after the last 10 years in it, I'm really excited to be having these kind of cross-aisle conversations. Like,
it's going to lead to more transparency, because finally we'll be able to share, because it's a common problem. Whereas normally there's been problems in the industry, but they're only your problem when they're your problem. So I'm really excited about this bit to see how the organization take that bit forward.
What considerations are there for influencers and content creators around this?
So this is one of those where if anyone watches this recording in 2 weeks, I'm sure my answer will be out of date. It depends a little on what relationship is currently being brokered between the platforms, right? Whether like Reddit had its Amazon across Google results, right? And then had a blip in its contract negotiations and suddenly was not influencing AI platforms for a bit. Now it's back. When Meta decides to finally broker a deal, I don't have any insider knowledge, if the broker a deal with OpenAI to funnel like all of Instagram in return for what I can only imagine will be billions into the OpenAI data set, then suddenly it will matter. Like overnight, it will matter. But those negotiations are happening at such a high level that I think the answer is still what it has been for a long time. Is like high quality content across multiple channels, wherever your audience lives. Like the AI scrapers and bots, at least for now, are mimicking human behavior when it comes to trying to prioritize content. easy to read, makes good sense, delivers real value, isn't overly biased. Like those things are still important.
Our website is a sign of that because we publish content like that and we are number one. It works, people. Okay, so we've discussed what open attribution is. We've discussed all the complexities around it. We have spoken about what the initiative and who the initiative is for. I want you to talk a little bit about what the future looks like. So we're here today, we're having this conversation. You've put the kind of framework together for what openattribution.org is going to be doing, tackling, trying to bring people together. What's the next step?
The organizational answer is easier. So organizationally, I think it's getting that initial steering committee membership solidified, making that announcement over the course of the next month. We are looking at doing our kind of first roundtable event in London in June. I'm still kind of getting ducks in a row for that, but at core really is getting us in a room. It's all well and good to submit this website and hope that people look at it, but needing to get like, here's the whiteboard, here's what we're doing, let's take concrete steps. So that's the more organizational side. On practical side, so we have 2 open contributions that are currently under review with the commerce protocols I mentioned earlier. Again, agents buying stuff for users is very early days. So get accepted into that protocol. It will change the world tomorrow. But it is a really important first signal, an important first wedge. And effectively it says on the agentic commerce protocol, which is OpenAI and Stripe, and the universal commerce protocol, which is Shopify and Google, that here's a really easy extension that any agent can turn on that says, in addition to making purchases, it also shows its work. It emits the signals that are the URLs that it has cited on the way to that purchase. A big part of this next step is getting pressure behind those contributions. Like we're engaged with the teams on both sides, but more voices is always better. Brands, publishers, both, right? Saying we're excited for an agentic commerce protocol. We're excited for agents to be able to buy stuff. It's an interesting future, but we don't want it without transparency. For those 2 contributions to get more awareness, like that will help them get through. And that's half the battle, right? And if that's all open attribution gets done, I'm still counting that as a big win because we've now got a standard in place where any tracking platform on behalf of any publisher or brand can go capture a signal on the back of a sale event in a standard format and produce reporting and have visibility. It's not just visibility.
It's also transparency about who's actually brought you that client, because up until this point, this industry has only ever had a finite way of commercializing the activities that publishers do or affiliates do for them, content creators, whoever that referral partner is. A good question around that is, do you think the commercial model of a CPA will still be relevant in the short and long term?
I think last click has been broken for a long time. The amount of ink spillover that is oceans. This is the opportunity to reframe. If someone asks me, my answer as to what this industry is has changed in the last couple of years. Now it's from a network perspective, because that's where I'm coming from. But what do? We measure the influence that content has on a customer outcome, right? And then we provide brands the ability to pay the content producers for that influence. That word influence has become critical, and it's no longer just lip service, because now we're looking at an environment that is not a linear click path that we pretended was real for a long time. Your research on your hand warmers, if anything, that's like this big graph of interaction. There's no like first, last break, right?
Multiple things that I touched on before I made my $20 purchase. And that sounds bad because it was only $20, but believe me, when you're standing out on a rugby field for hours on end in the rain, you want your hands to be warm and the battery to last.
There's a woman named Tori on the executive team over at People that has this great quote around like the AI, and I'm going to get this slightly wrong, I apologize, but the AI companies think they know how people buy, but like the affiliate industry, like we know how people shop. And that's different because what you just described is how people shop.
Critical difference, yeah.
And I can't like pop open your brain and go, okay, how did you like consider what influenced you? But we can do that now with a LLM, right? And so if you have this customer conversation that's proceeding and you know all the influences and you know why this bot thinks it knows what it thinks it knows, right? Then we can start to have this new model of influence. I'm very explicitly not trying to advocate for a specific like attribution methodology. I want to get the signals out and then let everyone else debate that.
And I agree with you. I don't think you can, because every business, every industry type or vertical type will have a different attribution mix, depending on what the shopping journey is, not the buying journey, the shopping journey is. So I believe that CPA will still be relevant up until the point that last click becomes irrelevant. If and early adopters paying for influence are the ones that are going to win out. So if you've got the data, you've got the capabilities, and you know exactly what your consumer journey is and how to influence it, that's when you're going to win. It becomes way more complex now.
It is. I would say that's still CPA. Yeah, I would say the A is no longer just last click though, right? Like, yeah, customer outcome, that is the acquisition. We want to pay for the influence on that. It's just now a much more nuanced set of information.
Are we on the cusp of finally having the CPM as a performance model?
only if we get visibility. Because if we don't, whether it's open attribution or something else, if we don't get actual transparency and visibility here, then we cannot do that. And we're just going to end up paying, I don't know, OpenAI because they're the last click, right? We're not in a zero click world. We're going to click from ChatGPT to everything else. Either the last click breaks and we find a new thing, or we end up just making OpenAI richer at the expense of all of our publishers. And I don't think we should do that.
Yeah. But then it also does, my future mind thinks, if we do get to that point, bye-bye paid media, hello performance. So if you're going to specialize in anything, maybe you want to be thinking about moving into the affiliate industry. And I know that's a big, bold claim that I've just made, but that's how my mind thinks.
Again, I'm using the phrase content owner and content producer, right? Because I think affiliate has had so much baggage to it, and partner and all the rest, where like at the end of the day, authentic content that has real meaning is what matters. And again, I take it back to, we're not just influencing customers, we're now trying to influence the agent to influence customers on our behalf. And they're not smart. They don't think. They don't have feet. They don't drink coffee, right? Like they don't know anything. We have to get back to this idea of our content is what teaches these agents what they think they know. And we need to find the right patterns to idealistically influence those towards like reality and correctness, not slop, but also to understand how this distribution channel works. Because that's all it is, right? It's a messy distribution channel as opposed to an intelligent, like sentient entity.
But also be vigilant now, because there's a loophole. There's a loophole that content can be created for the purposes of not good. Yeah, something to think about.
And I use that opportunity real quick to promote, I'm going to do the unforgivable and promote a totally different initiative that's not mine. It was announced this morning. Is Spur, S-P-U-R, here in the UK. It's the consortium of the big media companies that have come together to try to address exactly that point. And I'm super excited about it. It's because they are going, not just necessarily commercially, they're just saying in the name, or we as people, as citizens, should know where our sources are, where our content is being sourced from. Is it real? Can we have auditability? Can we trace that back? And is there a world where this kind of journalism can survive in this environment?
We've had another question come in from Mark Andrews. Thank you, Mark. Alex, we work with most of our advertisers on a CPA and CPC rate. Context, we are considered a full funnel partner, have a lot of upper funnel, but can also convert. Mark, I'm pretty sure you work at YouFurnish, so I don't know if that means anything to you, Alex, but can you answer the question?
I think like your content is prime LLM stuff, right? And every time they scrape it and they use it, you deserve to know when that happened. And if you're going to keep getting tied back to this CPA side, right, then the only way that still works is if we can understand how you've influenced that sale. So I would say come join Open Attribution. That's what we're pushing for. The other way to think of it is owning your audience in unique ways is really important, right? So if YouFurnish is a port of call for folks to come to, then ChatGPT becomes slightly less necessary in that environment, right? And you can deliver that value. That then translates out into all the metrics that ChatGPT looks at to go scrape for as well, right? So it has a halo effect around that.
Yeah.
There's also this starting to organize around thinking about how you manage your own information that you funnel into the agents. And that's where like AI search visibility tools are a good place to start. A lot of like Google's answer to that is write everything in perfect markdown, make all your content available to us, let us scrape it easily. And we promise that like maybe we'll link back to you. There's a different future where you own basically your own little agent that sits on top of your content and serves content out to customers and their agents in a more controlled way that gives you transparency and gives you that ability to do things like drive clicks directly and stay on CPC. I wish I had a more direct, this is how you stay alive tomorrow with the existing model answer. I don't think there is one, unfortunately. I think getting into that idea of being able to show your work, show your influence is going to be how modern publishing proceeds forward.
Yeah.
Whether it's with AEO tools or whether it's with a more deterministic tracking like we're trying with Open Attribution.
Alex, this has been a lot. Like even at my level, I'm trying to comprehend the impact of this, not just for today, but for 6 months from now, 12 months from now. How do people get involved? Like, what's the next step? They've heard what you've got to say. They've been made aware of what this is going to be looking at and doing and prioritizing. What's the next step?
Please, even if you're not able to sign a membership agreement, let us put your logo on the site. As someone who supports Open Attribution, I'd encourage you to reach out on the website or directly for alex@openattribution.org. Yeah, I'll put you on our little mailing list. You'll get updates around like where we're at with commerce protocols. Like in answer to that statement you just made, Leanne, there's a lot happening out there. And I think particularly in our industry, we can kind of go, what's tomorrow look like? So one of the things I'm committed to as part of the initiative is just bringing some of this information back to the group and providing a bit of a space where we can know what's going on. I think to me, the coolest part about this initiative has been meeting with a huge range of very smart people who really, really care and are really committed to making this work. Last part I'll throw in, particularly on the brand side, like this is obviously a publisher pain point and it matters. Brands have the money, they're spending the budgets, right? And it's a lot easier for a brand to get the ear of one of the big platforms than an individual publisher. So if you're a brand, if you've got content, if you've got product feeds that are content, and you're trying to think about how do you like safely move forward in a transparent way, how do you engage with these platforms in something that is on your terms as a brand, as opposed to only on their terms, would love to have you, right? Like that support makes all the difference in making this something that is not just collective action from half the industry, and instead is a holistic approach to like, we want to solve this, here's a solution, let's work together.
One last question here, which I think is also very important. When is your roundtable in June? Because I think there's some interest here where we can find the information.
LinkedIn, I will be posting about it. I will send it around to anyone who's reached out to me through the website. Should be getting emails from Open Attribution. If you're not yet, please hit me up again. I've been doing this dance.
As soon as you know the dates and the times, we'll just pop it onto Affiverse's events directory, and that gets emailed out every Thursday into your newsletter. So if you haven't signed up to our newsletter yet, do that, because you will be told when events are happening. Thank you all for joining us. We have really enjoyed doing this with you, Alex, and understanding a little bit more. I'm certainly going to go and do a lot more research. We have already signed up to Open Attribution as a company and an agency as well. I think I was one of the first people that signed up, actually. So yeah, it's a really good initiative. We wish you all the best with it. You know, not easy to lead a lot of people on a subject matter that's as contentious and complex as this. So kudos to you for doing it. It's been a pleasure to have you on, Alex, and all the best with Open Attribution.
So there you have it, folks. Do reach out to Alex or visit openattribution.org to sign up and join this initiative. The wheels in affiliate marketing move at such an accelerated pace, and it's worthwhile keeping yourself informed, acting on new developments, and planning ahead in order to make the best decisions for your business. Now, that's it from me this week, and I look forward to having you join me in next week's episode of the Affiliate Marketing Podcast.
If you need services to launch, fix, or scale your affiliate program, head over to KonverJ.io. That's KonverJ.io. KonverJ's award-winning affiliate marketing agency. Support brands launch, scale, and grow their affiliate program from technical startup to partner recruitment or competitive program audits. We've got you covered. Book a free 15-minute strategy at KonverJ.io. That's KonverJ.io.